What is up, fellas? The Goob here, coming at you with another episode of Rewriting History with the Goob. Today we have Mr. Mike Collins coming on the show, the Wandering Wolf. However, I literally just now got an email from him. We were going back and forth, and it seems like he got the time zone mixed up a little bit, so he's thought it started an hour from now. So I'm not entirely sure when he'll be joining the show. This might be a long episode, and he might be joining a little bit later. That's fine. I can fill time. My autism has been triggered so severely by this Joe Rogan Dibble and Hancock debate. My autism has not been triggered like this since I was a teenager. I have, in a very unhealthy way, been obsessively following this, and it's really been an eye-opening experience. Like, as much as I talk about how corrupted science is, I seem to be lagging a lot right now. I don't know how bad it is on YouTube, but I seem to be quite laggy on my end, so it's probably not better on you guys' end. Says I have an excellent connection, though. Occurring. As much as I talk about the corruption in science, as much as I talk about the problems, as much as I talk about how adversarial it's become. Oh, Mike is here. I think I've underestimated the problem, is the point I was getting at there. But welcome, Mike. Let's see if I can figure out how to put both of us on here equally. I'm not sure I know how.
Hello?
How's it going, Mike? Oh, let me... Sorry, I had myself muted. You should be able to hear me now. So yeah, we are live right now. Thank you for coming on early. I know there was a small confusion there, but I'm glad you were able to make it.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, Mike Collins, the Wandering Wolf, you are one of my favorite YouTubers out there. I really think your footage is a level above pretty much everyone else's. Your 360 video of Baalbek at Lebanon is maybe my all-time favorite video ever. I mean, it felt like I was there. It was a really fantastic experience to get to experience that from my computer chair here. So
I appreciate it. That was Baalbek was a pleasure to film. I mean, that quickly became one of my favorite sites in the entire world, and being able to 360 VR it. In fact, my cousin does all the VR work, so huge shout out to Austin. Yeah, the 360 stuff is something that we thought might be big eventually one day, and so we started doing it years ago, and we just kept doing it. We have a catalog of probably over 100 sites that we're trying to work through to get all those 360 videos up from around the world. So there's plenty more to come.
That's very exciting to hear. Yeah, no, not many people seem to be doing it, and I mean, it really it's a whole nother level from your standard video. Like, obviously being there would be better, but I really felt like I got to be there in a way. It was very, very cool.
I think people kind of don't realize that you can interact with the screen on those 360 videos to make it more popular. A lot of the comments that I get are like, "It's pointed at the ground. What is this?" It's like, oh, you can touch the screen and move the camera any direction you want. So that just really makes it, like really immersive in terms of for the viewer, which is really cool.
I showed off that video on another channel, Low Value Mail, and he played it on his channel, and he couldn't understand the 360 part. Yeah, you just had it fixed on one point the whole time. He was staring at the ground. He was like, "What is this? This is garbage." I'm like, "No, man, it's great."
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a little
that is unfortunate, but yeah, I guess that's an issue.
But the 360 content, the drones, some different stuff are kind of staples of the channel of what I do, and really hoping to provide I really want to give an experience to the viewer where you're able to kind of see for yourself and come to your own conclusions. My hope is to generate thought.
I think you do a very good job of that. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Yeah, more than just putting out content, I think I'd really like people to be as excited about this as I am,
Yeah. It's exciting stuff.
Yeah. So you see enough of it, and it's fascinating stuff all over the world.
Yeah. So I've been on an America kick lately. Last week we covered like the Hebrew Native American connection with the Hanukkah mound. That was really interesting. But we've been going all over America, north and south. And you've got some stuff that I've never seen anywhere else, specifically the cart ruts. Man, those are absolutely fascinating to me. And I'm hoping you can explain those to us a little bit better, because I really don't understand them. Not only in America, even the ones in the old world are a bit confusing to me. Were people hammering these out with chisels? Is the explanation that the wooden cart wheels actually did this? What can you tell us about this? Give us a little education here, if you can.
Yeah, sure. So, anything in America is explained away as, something recent, or there's no like even thought put into there being it seems at times possible ancient cultures capable of certain things that we find not far away, just down in Mexico.
But it's completely unacceptable here. You just aren't even allowed to think that.
Completely unacceptable. Yeah, absolutely. Everything's stopped back in, for thousands of years. Everything's stopped up until the last several hundred or so at the Mexican border, U.S.-Mexico border, right? They were very aware of what that future boundary line was going to be. No, but like dolmens here explained away as glacial erratics. The cart ruts are, we're told that they are worn down through wagons and carts traveling the same paths over and over again in certain areas. Now, if you took any of these sites and you put them over, like you said in the old world, if you took them and you put them over in Europe or anywhere over there, they'd be investigated for what they are, which is dolmens or cart ruts or whatever else that we're looking at, and there'd be a lot more research and investigation going on. Just the simple fact that people don't. The cart ruts are all over America. There's other examples of cart ruts, but these in particular line up very well with cart ruts found over in Europe, specifically places like Malta that I just got back from. So I was over in Malta and the Canary Islands in Spain for about a month, and the cart ruts in Malta, there's dozens and dozens of them. Too many for me to visit all of them in one trip. And these are exactly like those. They look exactly like those.
I've got the picture pulled up here that you sent over.
Oh, cool.
And so they do look identical.
Yeah, and what I'm trying to establish here is so what I did was I used LiDAR on the sites there in Malta. And the cart ruts in Austin, I live in Austin, so I'll be going out and I've already filmed them and taken pictures. It's been raining nonstop here, and so the cart ruts are actually in a creek bed. So I got to wait till the water goes down some, but I'll be going out there and LiDARing those and then getting all of that information and data and checking that out, making comparisons. So if we are able to plug those in and match things and make comparisons with cart ruts that date back thousands of years, we might be in business to start kind of changing some of the narrative. Because right now, really what we have is just people saying, this definitely looks like that, right? Because archaeology won't go and look at these sites, right? They won't, they won't push against the status quo in terms of,
no one's working at Sage Wall, and that's like such an obvious location, and there's no work being done there. So yeah,
we are.
Well, you are, but not archaeology, right?
Right. Well, so what we've done out at Sage Wall is brought in a geophysicist, geologist. We've got lab reports. I put out my most recent video. I think it's the featured. It is the featured video on my channel right now, on the homepage. The story of Sage Wall, and that shares the lab results and the ground penetrating radar and different studies and stuff that we did last year. And I'll be going out there again in the next maybe month or so,
Okay.
and we'll be doing more work. We'll be doing aerial lidar, and they've excavated the back side of it some, and we started kind of cordoning off. I say we, the property owner Chris has been putting all this work in. Chris and Linda are they're the property owners there.
All right.
And I, stay in touch with Chris. He's a good friend of mine. He's awesome, and he's been putting in a lot of work, and allowed me to come up there and document that and share their findings and the things that they're doing. So I'm hoping to be there and help out with a little work this year. So I've been going up there now for 3 years, I think.
Okay. Yeah, LiDAR up there is pretty exciting because I bet that will find quite a bit more. I mean, just you walking around, you've shown that there's a lot of other interesting features up there. So, yeah, that's very cool to hear.
Yeah. We have LiDAR'd it from the ground, but we need better. We've got professional aerial LiDAR coming in this time to give us a real good look at the entire area, plus the wall. We'll be doing it from the ground as well. And yeah, it's those kind of the extra features in and around that wall. For me, the wall's impressive on its own, even if you didn't find anything else. Yeah, but for me, it's all these other little details that are around the site that I kept finding, and I showed in my videos that made me want to, keep investigating. Because typically, my MO has been to go from place to place and always focusing on something new. So Sage Wall is kind of the first one since I started doing all this that got a second trip and now a third trip. And, be fascinating if we found something. And irregardless if it turns out to be, clearly we have evidence of the site being used by Native Americans and people in the past. But whether the wall is determined to be man-made or not, we're still doing quite a bit of research that's fascinating to me anyways, whichever way it ends up going, which provides information for a really interesting part of the country, the area there in that Boulder Bafflewood region. And I think that there's enough evidence to keep researching the site and looking into it, which is a really cool feature. I mean, it really kind of it kind of had it was similar to me walking up to Sacsayhuaman for the first time. That's how impressive that wall is. It's massive and in height and length, and there's two of them, which I'm hoping to highlight better this time around. There's two walls parallel to each other. Right. One's just in a state of collapse, and as opposed to the other one.
And it's like there's a ditch between them, right? Like the earth is higher on the outside of the walls, and I think it clearly looks man-made. And then you have the other Montana megaliths that how far they're relatively nearby, aren't they?
Yeah, everything's pretty much in the same region.
And your footage of the Tizer dolmen with the drone was fantastic. I mean, I think there's no question that that's man-made. I just don't see. I really see no explanation other than someone placed that rock up on top of those other two. So if we've got that in the same general location, it really seems to suggest that these other man-made looking things are probably man-made too, in my opinion.
Well, people are going to not hate me, but people may not like me for this one, but I can't explain how the rock got on top of Tizer dolmen. But and there's quite a bit of stuff going on in that area right there, right next to the dolmen. I mean, in the immediate area that are very interesting, like those three nubs and different stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's clear that the upright rock was split. A boulder rolled into the back and split that rock into actually 3 pieces, and one of the pieces is down on the ground, and the other 2 pieces have broke vertically and split. Now I can't explain how the rock got on top of it, so I think of Kaiser Dolmen more of as kind of like Kaiser Monument, and you know, I hesitate for some of this to say anything definitively because I've been out there twice, but I do need to go back out again and kind of research this. But there is one whole slab that used to be upright that's broken off and laying on the ground next to it. So you can see that in the drone videos. When you first see it, Kaiser Dolmen is wild. It just kind of defies logic, you know? And again, I can't explain that on the top of it, and it's very interesting. But I don't think that it was. I think that it was split in half.
So there was already something interesting there, and then maybe someone placed something on top of that.
Yeah, and it's very interesting too because at the bottom it sits in a kind of a cupped depression thing,
right?
Like a cradle.
Yeah, it's very really perched right on a little ledge. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's plenty. Even if I'm kind of, you know, letting the air out of the.
No, I think that's a good mentality to have. Is like you gotta question there. It's exciting to believe this kind of stuff. You know, I know part of me wants to believe it, right? And so you do have to check yourself a little bit. You have to go, well, hey, am I believing this because I want to, or does the evidence really support it? So.
Yeah. And I think the important thing to remember is that being excited about the stuff and asking questions is the catalyst to discovery. Like
Absolutely.
Having an open mind and entertaining these thoughts and being able to look at things from multiple different perspectives is what gives you the ability to kind of pursue things that maybe other people wouldn't, and possibly make new discoveries.
Yeah, that's how you progress.
Right. So I don't ever look at it like as if I'm looking for the answer to something, and I'd love it to be this, but that's not the answer I get. I don't look at that. I think a lot of people think of that as like a failure, and I just don't see it that way. And if we explore the Sage Wall and it's absolutely definitively proven that it's a geological formation, there would be so many people telling me I failed. I just don't look at it that way. I'll just keep going with the next project and the next thing. It's not like Sage Wall is the only thing that I'm doing, and I think the act of following through with things to a logical conclusion is not wasted effort. It's good work. So we're just going to keep doing the LiDAR up there. I think there's plenty of stuff to warrant further investigation and continued research, and keep doing the, like I said, the LiDAR, more lab results. We're going to continue excavating up there. Chris is doing all that work, which is amazing. And he sent me some pictures, which I shared on Twitter and I think on my community page on my channel, of the backside of Sage Wall, which, you know, there was a couple other YouTubers that went up there and dismissed Sage Wall just outright. They just dismissed it outright. And basically it said that the back of Sage Wall was at a higher elevation and that it was just rocks that went back. Well, Chris has cleared part of that down now. And it shows that that's not the case. It has a wall structure on the backside too. And that's slowly being revealed. So that's very interesting.
Right. Yeah, no, I definitely feel the same way. Some truths might be more fun than others, but ultimately finding the actual truth is the best possible outcome, you know? And so, yeah, I think regardless of how it turns out, you are doing great work. I'm very excited to find out the results and what you find. And yet you see a lot of this just dismissal, like we were talking about at the beginning of the episode. It's anything that goes too far outside of the paradigm, it just can't be true. You know, there's no point in even entertaining the idea kind of deal. And that's very unfortunate, but it's how things work.
Yeah, absolutely agree. I think anybody in following the ancient history community is aware of the Graham Hancock and Flint Dibble debate recently on Joe Rogan, and I think that was just a perfect example of this closed club, this attitude of I think it highlighted very effectively the difference in thought patterns, the way that people think and choose to pursue things in the world. It very clearly kind of delineated the different types of ways that people think around these topics, and it's kind of unfortunate. I think Flint Dibble did an excellent job of showing what I think a lot of people in the ancient history community, the alternative ancient history community, have been saying for a long time, is that they just come across as very closed-minded. I mean, his absolute dismissal of certain things just doesn't quite make any sense.
It's pretty anti-scientific to go, no, don't even think about, you're stupid for even thinking it. And it's like, that's completely anti-science. And I've been this debate really triggered my autism, and I've been like following it really closely. I've been arguing with people, all day long, and like it really is remarkable how I call it the religion of science, now, and the people who follow it have become so like aggressively anti-science. You are not allowed to think outside of the box, and if you do, they view this as like a sin. Thinking anything that's not already the accepted consensus is a sin in their eyes, and it really upsets them. And it really has become hostile. It's become like politics almost. These two people, or these two groups of people, are witnessing the same events and coming away with completely different takeaways, completely like living in two totally different realities, and cross communication doesn't even seem possible anymore, which is pretty disheartening to kind of consider.
Yeah, 100%. I think when you start championing slogans publicly like the science is settled, maybe you guys might want to reevaluate. The science is never settled.
Yeah.
I don't care. And if you're really interested in science, you should be interested in people, or be happy to have people asking questions and looking into stuff and being curious.
Give you an opportunity to strengthen your argument, Yeah.
Right, because the pursuit of truth, which ultimately isn't that what science is? We're pursuing truth in science. And so you don't have to be like, I don't understand this fear of ideas, regardless of how outlandish they may think they are, how these are threatening, right? Because if you pursue anything to its logical conclusion, the truth comes out through work and everything else, and asking enough questions and answering those questions.
Yeah.
So, Graham Hancock will either be proven right or proven wrong, and that is so ultimately what you're saying is what he's pursuing is either worth doing or not doing. So really, eventually, when you circle it all that back around, what you're talking about is the right to ask questions or not. Basically, free speech. You're basically saying that guys like Graham Hancock, or anybody that has an alternative theory, should be shut down in silence.
And especially with the whole racism aspect, like that's very plainly evident. Yeah.
So dirty and underhanded, and I just think that shows his character as a person. But it's if that's what ultimately the whole argument boils down to, that's ridiculous and doesn't have anything.
Doesn't fill me with faith that your side is right when you don't attack the actual argument and you resort to attacking the person. Yeah.
Yeah. I've never understood the need to do that. Just let people be, whatever.
So back to these cart ruts a little bit, if you don't mind. Do you have any kind of theory or hypothesis on when they came from or who they came from? Because
I think it's hard to say. There's so much missing in North America in terms of having even a frame of reference to build from, right?
Yeah.
So there's a wealth of information about stuff, let's say in Europe, for example, for you to kind of pull information from, see similarities, understand a bit about the past, and that you don't have that here to be able to work with, right? So you're really starting, if you believe that there was an ancient civilization that inhabited North America, capable of, working on things like cart ruts that you see in the other place, megaliths, dolmens, and things like that, then you're really starting at ground zero. And North America has become very interesting to me for that reason over the last year or so. And so right now, really what I'm just trying to do is document and film as many of these places as possible so that it's out there in the public eye and conversations are being generated around these topics and subjects, because what I'm finding is people have stuff to share. People are sending me emails of cart ruts in Tennessee and Oregon and stuff on trails and things that they've hiked forever, and I'm like,
that's very cool.
Shit, man, there's a lot of places I have to go see now, and
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, if I can get out to some of these places that are being shared with me, that would be fabulous. We could start building even more of a kind of understanding of what's going on here. I love the dolmens like Balanced Rock up in New England. I mean, it's just so clearly an ancient dolmen.
Right.
It couldn't fit the bill better. There is nothing about that dolmen up in New England that could make it look more like any other dolmen found around the world. Many other dolmens found around the world.
Right.
But as far as the cart ruts, I'm just digging into. I'll be getting out there here in the next month or two when the rains let up a little bit, and filming that more. I'll be hopefully getting the LiDAR, being able to compare stuff in the program, getting exact measurements and being able to compare stuff with like places in Malta and different areas and stuff like that I've also documented.
Yeah, that would. And so, one other question about the cart ruts: have you measured them? Going along them to see just how consistent the spacing is? Like, have you had an opportunity to do that? Okay.
Because there's clearly variations, and there's multiple different. It's not like there's just one cart set.
Right, they crisscross.
And they crisscross. There's even sets of like 4 going in parallel to each other, and they go down. They extend for quite a bit on down this creek bed here in Austin, and so it'll be good to get out there this year. I should have that is one of my focus videos that I'll be doing probably over the summer, but in the next month or two.
Okay.
Documenting the sites in Austin, making comparisons with the ones I filmed overseas, and putting all that data and information together, running it through the LiDAR, getting a lot of measurements and stuff like that, and releasing a video of comparing those. It'd be great to be able to get out and get another site like the one that was brought to my attention in Tennessee and the ones in Oregon as well.
Oh, wow, all the way over on the West Coast.
So we'll see if we can pull that off. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm quite new to studying the history of America. I never cared about history growing up, probably because we're not taught, real history, right? We're taught the boring stuff. And then I got into Egypt and India and places like that, and I never really paid any attention to America until about a month and a half ago. And it's been fascinating, the stuff I found, because you find evidence of multiple different cultures over here pre-Columbus. I don't know if you've ever heard of Ogham writing, but it's Celtic runes that you have one long line and then a series of other lines along it, and you find that all over. You find a lot of Hebrew writing as well, which almost all of it is dismissed as hoaxes, but I'm not really convinced of all of that, especially because have you ever heard of the Hanukkah Mound or the Hanukkah Mound by the Hopewell tribe?
Yes. I've never been there.
Well, it doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately, but it was this 2,000-year-old menorah and ancient Hebrew oil lamp that was carved into the ground here in America, in Ohio. And so, you combine things like that, and there's like the Micmac tribe that has almost the exact same written language as this ancient Egyptian language. There's just a lot of connections with a lot of different cultures you see over here, and I think it's to me, even if you think most of this stuff are fake and hoaxes, to me there's still plenty of evidence to show that there was a lot going on before Columbus. And I hate to cut us off here, but the meeting is about to end and I'll have to relaunch it. I'll post the new link in the chat so you can rejoin. And sorry for the inconvenience, but
no worries.
I'm low value, so I'll close this and I'll relaunch it and post that link in the chat here. If my computer wants to actually launch a new meeting, here we go. Go ahead and am I not live right now? I am live, right? Yeah, no, you guys are talking to me in chat. You were, at least. So I certainly should be live. I have that panic like every single episode of at least once of, oh crap, am I live? But the chat is seemingly frozen on here. Am I live? Uh-oh. I'm concerned. I am recording this, so if I'm not live, it is being recorded, but I should be live. I should be. I think this just isn't working for some reason. It says it's waiting for me, though. That's concerning. I don't like that. I don't know if I'm live. I don't know, and I don't think... Oh, there's two. There's two. Okay. That's what... All right. I see. So I think I was posting the link in the wrong one. Yeah, I did accidentally create a second live stream when I was setting up the OBS, and I don't know how to delete it once it's made. Like, I accidentally double made it, and I can't figure out how to delete it. So I think I sent Mr. Wandering Wolf, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I sent him the link to the wrong live stream. So, well, I've now posted it in both, so he should actually be able to find it regardless. Hopefully he's able to rejoin. Oh, this is a low value show. This is a very low value show. I'm grateful that Mike agreed to come on such a low value show. So yeah, hopefully he's able to rejoin. Okay. Yeah, messed up the stream. He found sauce, double live. Okay. I guess I can post it here as well, just in case he's checking his email. Yeah, and it doesn't help. It doesn't help that you know, my videos don't show up on my own page. So, you know, I'm pretty sure I liked the wrong video. Yeah. So now the live that isn't actually live is showing up on my page, and the live that is, it says this is live. Did it use the wrong thumbnail and everything? My goodness, I really messed that one up, I guess. It's got the wrong title and everything. I don't know how I did that, but
Hey,
hey, welcome back. I was just realizing as, you know, restarting this that I messed up the whole live stream. I set up a new live stream and then somehow launched this one as last week's episode instead. So, but I'm glad you got back in.
me too.
So yeah, we were talking about. I was just talking about all the different connections I see to different civilizations in America well before Columbus. You know, going all the way back like 2,000 years ago. So.
Right, yeah. Generally with America, I start with the assumption that everything that I know is a lie in terms of history.
Seems safe with America. Yeah.
You know, I find it hard to believe that these megalithic cultures throughout South America and Central America and Mexico just stopped at, now there may be some considerations to be made in certain areas depending on the resources available for building materials, but you know, I think you know, I've talked about this before, I can't remember where, but you know, I feel like the national parks that we have a huge amount of land dedicated to national parks all around the country, and I feel like there's a lot going there, right? The government doesn't just, you know, the government doesn't do a whole lot of stuff just on the good graces of their hearts, you know, to like create amazing spaces for people, right? There's usually what we're told, and then the real reason, the real intention underneath that, right? And
Yeah.
I happen to think that national parks are, in a lot of places, perhaps areas of interest that they don't want anybody kind of going to, because a lot of areas in national parks are off limits. They're national parks. You can explore things, but there's huge amounts of land and area, government land, and all sorts of stuff, parts of parks that you can't go to. Take the Grand Canyon, for example. There's whole sections of the Grand Canyon that you're not allowed to go off trail or just explore or do anything like that, right? And I think that there's probably quite a bit of interesting things to be found out in some of these spaces and these vast wildernesses that would be probably pretty shocking.
Like Bigfoot.
Yeah, there you go. I do find it interesting that if you've ever looked at the overlay, someone did an overlay once of disappearances in national parks and how they overlay these cave systems with the country. And it's known that there's a huge network of tunnels going underneath the U.S., man-made and natural both. But these massive tunnels that you can drive, multiple 18-wheelers side by side through for huge amounts of distances that connect, cities and stuff like that, especially over on the East Coast. Now we're getting into a whole other thing, but I used to live up in Denver when they were doing the airport construction up there, and if anybody's familiar with that, the countless billions of dollars that they went over budget at that place, and the estimated amount of excavated dirt from that area, and speaks to something much larger being used at that place underground.
Yeah,
and,
very strange airport with a lot of strange stuff going on.
Yeah, I think it's probably an underground transportation hub under there.
I've definitely heard that idea.
Yeah, some kind of military base could be. I've seen bases built into the mountain and right into the sides of the mountains in my time in the military, with stuff that's just pretty incredible. And so I'm not sure people realize just how much the government's actually capable of doing in terms of stuff like that. It's extensive.
Well, we see a lot of its incompetence, like you look at how long it takes to fix a road and stuff like that, and they can be very incompetent, when they want to be at times, but they can also really get things done when there is this separation of like how people think about them on a day-to-day versus what can they really do when they're motivated.
Yeah, 100%. Specific projects, day-to-day tasks. I think the goal is to weigh governmental procedure when it comes to the average civilian, to weigh them down with red tape, to make everything, to make your life busy.
If it's not the goal, it's certainly the result. It's, I don't know if that's what they're shooting for, but that's what they've done.
I think it is the goal because it keeps people busy, with your day-to-day lives, your day-to-day errands, your day-to-day tasks and things that you need to get done. You don't have a whole lot of time, already between work and different stuff. People don't have a whole lot of time. Add a trip to the DMV during the week, and it's just like, but that keeps you from kind of exploring the bigger picture, looking at things more objectively on a larger scale of why things are being done certain ways. But if there's a past here in America that we're unaware of, certainly would love to, at least even uncover just a portion of that would be exciting. And I think some of that's happening. I think that there's things with like the dolmens, the cart ruts, stuff like Sage Wall, people identifying petroglyphs and not just petroglyphs, but Native American construction and different stuff. There's all sorts of things that's comparable to other things around the world. These, especially when it comes to symbology and stuff like petroglyphs and even the geoglyphs. I don't think most people realize there's geoglyphs in America too, which I've documented out in Blythe in California. But I think there's plenty to kind of unravel. It's a nice big mystery, and America always gets overlooked. North America does, and so that's starting to kind of catch on.
Yeah.
I had this feeling, I don't know, a year or two ago that North America might start really producing some stuff to look into. And I haven't been wrong on that. Canada too, as well. Canada has a bunch of sites. You've got this underwater Stonehenge up in Lake Michigan. You've got different things that are going on over the place that clearly show that certain, incredible things were being done here long ago.
One of the themes that I've found since I've shifted my focus to the Americas, both North and South, is that if you go back in time and you look at what was going on in America and you compare it to what was going on in the old world at the exact same time, America is pretty often like bigger and better in a lot of ways than the old world. I mean, you just mentioned Michigan and Lake Superior. We were mining copper way before the Copper Age in the old world, and we were even smelting copper before them. And then, you have Cahokia, which was a larger population, larger than London and France and major places in the old world at the time. You have other Hopewell locations that were also bigger than what was going on in Europe at the time. And then in South America, you have all of the different major cities down there that were bigger than. So there's this idea of primitive savages over here that just weren't doing anything. And even what's recognized by the mainstream already, that's not true. That's a complete, just misrepresentation of what was actually going on. And then my personal opinion is that even more was going on than what was recognized. So I think it's a very there's a lot that's still to be uncovered here in America.
Absolutely. And we're fed this idea that there was just nomadic tribes living in North America. And, perhaps there were, but that's certainly not the whole story. There were cities and road networks and all sorts of stuff that existed here before any Europeans came over.
Yeah.
And like you said, Cahokia
Ohio
at its height was larger than London at the same time.
Yeah. In the Hopewell,
a massive city of 250,000 people, I believe, if I remember correctly.
In the Hopewell, who go back even further than Cahokia, 2,000 years ago is when the Hopewell were around. They also had huge cities, bigger than what was contemporary in the old world. And you just mentioned roads. They have these 60-mile long, perfectly straight roads connecting one Hopewell city to another. And this is 2,000 years ago. It's like throughout the whole American history, we've been doing so much more than what the narrative that's presented to us laymen through schools and through popular culture is just these primitive savages, and it's just not true. So
right, yeah. 100%. And I think finding some of these leftover, spots, cart ruts and dolmens and different things like that, identifying them and documenting them and stuff like that, it helps us to create this bigger picture that we might start being able to understand as more and more of us kind of become aware of all these different things here in North America. It's like new frontier all over again in terms of making new discoveries. So North America is very exciting. It's very exciting. It's incredibly exciting going to places like Baalbek and different places like that, like we talked about at the beginning when we started. But also, there's this whole other amazing kind of mystery to unravel here in North America, I believe.
All right, so I have two questions for you. One is, do you want to talk about anything else? We've been talking about North America. Is there anything else you want to cover? But before you answer that, you were just talking about how this is a new frontier. And have you taken a moment to stop and think about the fact that you are on the cutting edge of this frontier? You are on the forefront of this new frontier of discovery. You are talking about doing LiDAR scans over at Sage Wall and all of this stuff. I mean, archaeology has come to a halt in America. They know what happened here. They're not going to look for anything else because they've already known what's happened here. And so it truly is. It's people like you that are our last hope for actually making new discoveries and making actual progress in this field of archaeology and writing history. And has that ever crossed your mind that that's you, man? That's you.
I appreciate that. Those are very kind words. I think, my obviously there's a passion in me that wants to go see these things for myself, right? And then figuring out how to share that with people has been a goal. But there's some amazing work I would love to reference people to that others are doing, like Gregory Little, who is who is the premier person in terms of the mound cultures and documenting mounds and sharing information on mounds. He's an excellent person to follow on Twitter.
His book is available on archive.org, I believe. His book on mounds, you can find the whole thing on archive.org. Yeah. I heard that from you. I definitely heard that from you. I've been meaning to look into that book. I want to go read it. Yeah.
He's awesome and does great work. My buddy that I traveled down with in Peru, he just did a whole series and released a book, Will from Incredible History, and he released his book recently. He's been traveling North America, documenting North America. He was doing that for a year or two, and he's in South America now. But these I prayed my whole life that I'd find something that I love to do, because I just didn't know what I wanted to do, and it took me into my mid to late 30s to find it. So I'm very happy that it's some of the stuff that I'm doing is being received well, because I don't want to stop.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I'd love to keep getting these sites, documenting them, and putting this type of information together and sharing it with people, because I think it's really fascinating. If we keep picking away at stuff little by little, hopefully we get to kind of see what's underneath it all and get a good idea of what's kind of been hidden from us, because I think it's clear that stuff has been, and our history is just, I think it can just be cleared off the table and we just start fresh.
That's the title of the show, man. Rewriting history.
Nice, perfect.
Yeah. So I'm right there with you, and yeah, it's we're still figuring out what we were lied to about, but it's undeniable that there's deception going on here. Yeah.
I think that's clear as day, and especially if you grew up in the public education system, and then you spend any time looking at any kind of other stuff, it's pretty easy to see, just how untrue to be kind with my words, how untrue all of the stuff that we've been told over the years is. It's kind of this, glossed over version of things that's PC and that you can stomach, and then you just say okay and you move on, and it's the history here in North America is way more complicated than seeing it through the eyes of the school system and the history books that we've been given. That's not enough to understand it all.
I absolutely agree.
We have slides. What's that?
I was just saying I agree. Yeah,
and hopefully we have some interesting findings. I mean, we already have this year. We've already had some interesting findings at Sagewall, and I think there's more to come. I'm excited to get up there and share some more stuff with everybody over the next month or two, and document some more of these sites, like these other cart ruts and the cart ruts here in Austin. Put all that content together so people can kind of look at it for themselves and kind of gain a bigger perspective, like we've been talking about, of what's going on here. I think it's completely realistic and reasonable to think that there is, an ancient civilization or civilizations that were in contact with each other around the world and shared all sorts of things from history, legends, belief systems, symbology, writing, construction techniques, and building, all sorts of stuff, because we see those connections all over the place.
Yeah.
I don't even know how many ancient sites I've visited around the world anymore. It's been a lot, and there's always comparisons. Without fail, at every place that I go to, there's something that I can compare to on another continent.
Yeah.
That is clearly the same.
I mean, for me personally, the nubs you see everywhere are enough for me to look at those and go, we've been looking at these for thousands of years and have no idea what they were for, and they're found across the whole world, so we can rule out convergence. It's not like a pyramid that's the most basic possible shape. This is a complete, baffles everybody, and you find it everywhere. So that alone is enough for me to say, okay, there was some connection here. But like you said, you find it across every aspect of these cultures, across their religion and across their symbology, across all of it. And so it's pretty obvious in my opinion. But
I mean, these ancient religious cultures, legends, and myths are, so many of them are telling the same story, and they go back thousands of years. It's just utter, maybe not to be so kind with my wording this time. It's utter stupidity to dismiss these things, as we've seen done recently on one of the largest platforms in the world. It's just utter stupidity.
You were talking about, the PC woke, and they are willing to criticize Graham for saying that the Olmec heads look African, and that's a bad thing to say. You shouldn't say that. It's insensitive. Someone might be offended by that. Well, it's a perfectly valid observation. For one, they do look that way. It doesn't mean they necessarily are that way, but they look that way. But those people who are the first to cry out about that are also the first people to completely dismiss these myths and religions and these stories of these natives that you're talking about. And they go, oh, well, they don't act, they're these primitive savages. You can't take them seriously. Those are just stories and nothing more. And it's like, okay, so saying these heads look African is insulting, but completely disregarding their culture, that's perfectly acceptable. So.
Right. I'm glad you brought that up, because it's, it only ever with them goes one way. And it's like you said, it's very interesting that, parts of people's cultures and different stuff where they're talking about the past and history and things are outright it's not like they're building their scientific findings on these people's culture. They're bringing their culture and system that they used for establishing an understanding of the site in there. And, I like to think that, I like to start with, if I'm researching anything about, like, ancient history, legends, folklore, and stuff like that, just with that one, just start with that they're speaking literally first.
That seems like a reasonable starting point.
Yeah. I just assume that they're speaking literally first, and then we work from there.
Yeah.
So even if they're talking about, something that seems a bit fantastical, we'll start from there and work from there. But again, I think that this is just clearly there's two different ways to go back to what, some of the stuff that we were talking about when we first started is there's just two different modes of thinking. I think that some people aren't so much thinking as, just being really good at remembering things and parroting things. And, the other side has kind of creative thought, the ability to kind of imagine and run with certain thoughts while entertaining, being able to entertain multiple perspectives.
Yeah.
But when you do that, a lot of times you can be wrong. But if you don't care if you're wrong because there's a goal to get to a certain point, then, whatever, let them let the Flint Dibbles and people like that say whatever they're going to say.
I've been wrong plenty of times. I'm confident I'm wrong about things now, and I'm confident I'll be wrong about things in the future, and that's perfectly okay, And but I'm also pretty comfortable with my track record, and I definitely have a tendency to go against what's already accepted, and I'm like I said, pretty comfortable with my track record. So you definitely can't just rely on the consensus for the truth. It's just not reliable. You got to be able to trust your own judgments. And the people who believe in the religion of the science, I was, like I said, I've been autistically spurging out over this Joe Rogan debate since it happened. And so I was in an argument with someone the other day online, and I asked them, I was like, do you trust the scientific consensus more than your own judgments and your own observations? And they just went, yes, like, absolutely, yes, I do. And, it's like, whatever they say is what I believe. And if they change what they say, then that's what I believe. And I was like,
so wild.
And I even like he said it like 3 times in a row, because I was like, there's no way you're actually saying this. And he's like, no, that's exactly how I operate. And it was just like, whoa.
It is. It's mind-boggling to me. It reminds me, I saw a video of a guy who was getting upset. He posted a video being upset about the term NPC, and how he was describing how he doesn't have thoughts running in his
the dialogue,
head.
yeah.
Right, there's no
or monologue, dialogue. I guess, yeah.
And then somebody had asked him how how do you form an opinion? He says, well, I go to my trusted news sources and I research it and I look at all those things and I take that information and that's how I formulate my opinion on a thing. And it's like, so it's not your
There's
opinion.
No formulating going on.
You just took other people's thoughts and now they're just into your head as your own, but they're not your own. And so, it's like, it's just so wild. The idea of that is
so
very.
Something occurred to me since this Joe Rogan debate. Have you taken Psych 101 ever?
It's been a long time. I think I have a psych class or a
psychology class. Most Psych 101 classes, they cover the same handful of, experiments where the guy in the lab coat tells you to shock the guy to death, and they keep pushing the button and stuff like that. And, you put 4 people in a room and you have the first 3 say that 2 + 2 = 5. And 75% of the time, the 4th person will say it equals 5 too. It's like all of these experiments that have been done are all just confirming how strong the herd mentality and the urge to fit in is. And I realized that we're living in a society where the majority of people will blindly believe whatever the majority of people believe. And so that's like a crazy thought to think, because that doesn't even have to be based off anything now. It's like a group of people that blindly follow are the group of people that people are blindly following, if that makes any sense. And so it was like, oh shit, we're screwed.
Yeah, it's scary, honestly. Yeah. I mean, we just had like the world's biggest ever example of that with the whole COVID lockdown and vaccines. I mean, that was just like the biggest example of,
I mean, the whole world did the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, taking authority, these authority positions at their word, who have a track record of screwing people over consistently forever since their inception. There isn't an organization that I can think of, any major organization like that doesn't have that type of record. I don't understand listening and taking advice for stuff that can affect my life in a certain way from a talking head on a TV without, a bit of caution. But
plenty of people don't see the same way.
No, yeah, and it is kind of scary, yeah. It's scary that people can be influenced so easily on such a mass scale. Because when the shit hits the fan, that's very scary to think that a lot of people that would turn against you. And
I mean, I've experienced it firsthand, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's eye-opening for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of what's the best way to put this? It's like it kind of hardens you for your expectations of what's to come, and how to move and exist in society. It kind of changes you. But that herd mentality is something else. Some people will just argue with you if you say anything that's outside the accepted norm. And there's no changing those thought patterns. You find it on social media if you have any kind of platform. So I generally just don't even respond to those. It's like it's crazy.
I said it earlier, but I mean, I think it was most evident in politics first, right? Because that's like a popular topic, right? And it's a very visible topic. It's talked about on the news all the time and everything. So that's where we saw it first, where you have these two groups of people and they're not disagreeing. They're living in two completely separate realities. I mean, it is two totally separate realities. You can't even hope to try and communicate because, like I said, you're not disagreeing. You're in two different realities. But that has now, maybe it's not just now. Maybe I'm just seeing it now. But like that you see that with science and with just like every topic you can imagine, pretty much. And I don't know. How do you try and reconcile that? I don't know if you do, but it's unfortunate.
Yeah, it makes for some interesting scenarios for sure. In terms of society, it's crazy. Yeah, it gets wild.
So I think you can look at it as positive or negative. Like I was saying before, you genuinely are on the forefront. Like, I'm not just blowing smoke. I mean it when I say, like, you are on the cutting edge of archaeology and history and learning now. And I don't know if you follow like History for Granite on YouTube, but he's an armchair archaeologist. He's not even going out and visiting these sites. He's doing it from behind his computer. And I genuinely think it's a reasonable statement to say that he's done more to further Egyptology over the last couple of years than all of Egyptology has over the last couple of decades. Like his recent work on the Great Pyramids, to me, I already believed they were Khufu's tomb, but to me, he's really, really solidified that fact and, really illuminated how it actually functioned in its time when it was created versus, the antiquated Egyptologists' viewpoints on it. I don't know if you are familiar, but I think it's really fantastic. It's people like him and it's people like you that are actually moving this science forward now, which is both cool and sad. I don't know if that you should be more sad or more glad about it, because it is disappointing that our institutions of science are dying, but it's really cool that, your everyday people, someone like you decided, like you said, you were mid-30s, late 30s, and you decided to start doing this, and now you are rewriting history, man. You are. If you want to accept it or not, that's what you're doing.
Well, I think of it as, you said it perfectly. It is sad that archaeology is not pursuing some of these, just to use, for example, Clint Dibble dismissing Yonaguni outright.
Which your picture you provided is absolutely fantastic. It really highlights just how much it does look like a quarry negative.
Yeah, I've visited lots of quarries. Quarries happens to be a favorite thing of mine. I don't know, because they're pretty uneventful compared to like these megalithic structures. But over the years, as I've been visiting just countless sites around the world, the quarries have become one of my favorite things. It's like I just love finding a quarry. I've found quarries that have been unidentified before. I released a video on wanting in Kana, Corey, and you know, it's sad that archaeology isn't more interested in something like Yonaguni or different places, right? But you know, Dibble said it himself. You know, they're closing departments, they're shuttering up museums. There's a reason for that, and I don't want to see that happen. I don't want to, you know, as much as there may be differences between the alternative ancient history community and mainstream archaeology, I don't want to see museums shut down and archaeological departments closed. But that's what's happening out of his own mouth. There's a reason for that. They're not, you know, it's unfortunate, but I think people are inherently drawn to the truth, and I think as you start getting closer and closer to that, even as fantastical as some things may sound, it resonates with people, and they want to hear more about it. It isn't science fiction and fantasy that is resonating with people. It's the pursuit of finding out the truth, because there's an innate sense within ourselves that we've been lied to for a long time, and
100%.
the archaeology community is, you know, such a massive part of that. And you know, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. If archaeology really cared about the truth, instead of going after someone like Graham, who's actually investing of his own time, energy, and everything else, you know, go after the school books. Go after the school books that are in the educational system. Go after the companies that are printing this BS or the stuff that's giving us a false understanding of what the real history is in places like North American stuff that we've grown up with that we now know is absolute bullshit. So it's like, you know, until you guys start cleaning up your own yard, like, maybe you guys should just shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
you know?
it's the double standard that you see everywhere. I mean, Graham Hancock's not allowed to reference Plato without calling Plato a Nazi, but I've never seen anyone else make that disclaimer when referencing Plato ever in my life, and I've never heard this claim that anyone else is a Nazi because they referenced Plato. So it's just, yeah, it's obvious double standards. It's obviously attacking things that they don't like, and you know, this certainly isn't proof. Oh goodness. Oh goodness. I didn't realize that was, I wasn't paying attention. Yeah. Well, I think we're nearing the end. Hopefully he rejoins and gives us a sign out. But you know, either way, that was I really enjoyed that. Me and Mike seem to think very, very much alike. I mean, he's saying everything I'm thinking. You know, so yeah. I don't even remember the point I was just making. And my brain got a little reset there. I know I was talking about double standards a minute ago. Yeah, I don't know. If he joins again, great. I think this is probably around the end, and we'll do a sign out and shut it down. And if he doesn't join again, you know, that was a really fantastic interview. I apologize that this show is so low value that, you know, I have to restart the meeting twice like this and try and get him to rejoin. And I'm greatly appreciative that, one, that he took the time to join me at all, and two, that he, you know, stuck with me through relaunching meetings and double live streams and all of this. So, that was a lot of fun. That was very cool. I really enjoyed that interview. I hope you guys did too. I meant to give a shout out to Mr. Galunas. You know, you kept talking about all these mounds and these dolmens, and you talk about those all the time. Um, you know, and I was going to ask where in Austin, you know, those cart ruts are, but but yeah, that was a good show. That was really good, and yeah, you know, it is rather upsetting to see and to realize just how complete the death of archaeology is. I was talking about how I've been very autistically spurging out over this Joe Rogan debate, but the reason I'm like so fixated and obsessed with this, and the reason it's so like I can't get off of it, is because the more I follow it, the more I interact with these people, the more I'm realizing just how like hopeless the situation is. And I've talked about it a lot on the show before, and I was I was so far off in the scale. Like I thought the problem was bad, and it's so much worse. So, you know, it sucks that our institutions of science have completely been corrupted to the point where I don't think they're salvageable anymore. But it is very cool how we've gotten to a point where, you know, a guy can go out and buy some LiDAR equipment and he can go survey a site and post it online and do more than archaeology is doing, and is as just a man, just an individual man. You know, I've talked about the concept of like a man can build a castle. Coral Castle was built by one man. There's several other examples of very impressive castles, like actual castles, because Coral Castle isn't a real castle, but actual massive, impressive castles that have been built exclusively by one man. So, you know, one person can change the world. Heroes do exist. Heroes were real. We've had heroes eliminated largely from our culture, and you know they people a lot of our world is designed to suppress heroes, kind of like what Mike was talking about, where you know we're just kept busy all day every day. But you know, look at Mike, he's breaking out of that. He is a hero, maybe not on the level of Superman, right, but he is furthering the he's furthering the discovery of history in America and around the world. And I mean, that's not something, especially when all of our institutions have been set in opposition of that goal, right? When our institutions of science are not only no longer institutions of science, but are distinctly anti-science. They are actively attacking and viciously attacking anyone who dares to do actual science, and you still have someone like Mike coming out and doing it despite all of that, and doing it quite successfully. I'm really looking forward to those LiDAR scans of uh, Sage Wall in Montana. Like he was saying, regardless of what he finds, if he comes away from it and with the conclusion, and it's you know that it is natural, that's furthering that's he's still furthering the work, just like he said. So I really can't understate how important what he's doing is, how awesome what he's doing is. Um, it He is the new frontier of history and archaeology, and not just him. Not obviously not just him. Many other people like him, like history for granted, like lots of other people. Hopefully, like me someday. I would also, you know, like to get to that point. That would be really cool. So, yeah, science has died. The institution of science has died, but people like Mike are keeping it alive. They are furthering the work, and America, so much of its history has been hidden. I've done a lot more research since the last episode, and I hadn't even presented a lot of my research in the last episode. There's so much to cover. I've got content for a while, which is a good thing to have, good problem to have. I'm definitely going to be talking a lot more about America and the hidden history of America, and I'm finding it harder and harder to call the Mormons crazy as my research goes on. So, coming from this, from a perspective of not even knowing anything about Mormonism and certainly not trying to prove it correct, I'm seeing a whole lot of things that are pretty suggestive that they weren't just completely talking out of their ass. So, that's where I'm going to end the show. Thanks again to Mike Collins, Mr. Wandering Wolf, for joining us. I apologize. The show's so low value and we had to restart the way we did. But thank you for showing up. I had a great time. I hope the rest of you guys did.